From the pinnacle of glory to financial disillusionment, the fall of some of the most prosperous football players is as swift as it is unexpected. The most striking example is that of Wilson Oruma, former midfielder of Nigeria's Super Eagles, who saw his fortune of €4.8 million evaporate after falling victim to a scammer he had hired to invest in fictitious oil blocks. This tragic fate highlights a reality often obscured behind glamour and exorbitant salaries. Many players, ill-prepared to manage their wealth, find themselves trapped in high-risk investments or dependencies from which they cannot escape without the help of someone with experience. Are you ready to hear the stories of once wealthy, but now ruined former football players? Then hold on tight, because here we go. And now we're going to talk about one of the greatest names in football history, Diego Maradona. His death at the age of 60 shook the world, but the most surprising detail wasn't his premature death, but rather the state of his finances. The Argentine legend was known for his life of excess, extravagant spending, and boundless generosity. With a fortune accumulated through lucrative contracts with brands like Puma and an annual salary of £15 million as honorary president of Dynamo Brest in Belarus, a life of opulence was expected at the end of his days. However, at his death, only £75,000 remained in his bank account. This state of affairs has several causes. On one hand, Maradona was a victim of his big heart, as he was often robbed by exploiters who took advantage of his generosity. On the other hand, unpaid tax debts totaling £33 million are another proof of his chaotic financial management. But Maradona was also a father. He acknowledged 5 children from 4 different women, not counting other possible heirs, and his family cost him dearly. His death triggered a real battle for succession. His estate, estimated at £150 million, included jewelry, properties, luxury cars, and even football schools in China. He had declared wanting to give it all away, instead of leaving a material legacy for his children. This surprising statement reflects the complexity of his personality. Despite this apparent wealth, Maradona's last years were marked by personal and financial difficulties, facing health problems, mainly related to addictions. Maradona fought demons that tarnished his final days. His death had global repercussions, with an immense crowd paying tribute to him in the streets of Buenos Aires. Ronaldinho's story is equally tragic. His career was atypical, just like his life. His incomparable talent mesmerized the world, but his existence went through significant financial turbulences after his retirement. Frequently hailed as one of the greatest footballers of all time, the Brazilian made history with unforgettable performances. His brilliant technique earned him a rapid rise to the top, crowned by winning the Ballon d'Or. However, behind this sporting success, there was a luxurious lifestyle, characterized by extravagant parties and a pronounced taste for luxury. This way of life, combined with the fatigue and discouragement caused by the demands of high-level sports, deeply affected the end of his career. His decision to leave Barcelona marked a turning point, and although he continued playing, his star began to decline. Today, Ronaldinho faces significant financial difficulties. According to reports, he almost lost everything and is indebted to millions of euros in taxes. Attempts by Brazilian tax authorities to recover these funds revealed nearly empty accounts and led to the confiscation of his properties. This ordeal goes beyond the question of money, as he was arrested in Paraguay for a case involving a fake document. Life after football presents serious challenges for former elite athletes. Asamoah Gyan was a formidable striker and pride of the Ghanaian national team, but his story is not a cheerful one either. After reaching the top, he found himself at the bottom of the pit, without money. For a while, he was one of Africa's best forwards, shining at Sunderland. With his talent and scoring sense, he earned a lot of money. At the end of his career, he was transferred to a club in the United Arab Emirates, where he broke all records by scoring 123 goals in 123 matches. Then, he moved to a Chinese club that offered him a salary of £227,000. However, the wheel of fortune sometimes turns inexplicably. After his transfer to Turkey, the club's cash problems meant he didn't receive his salary regularly. Today, Gen finds himself in an unimaginable situation, playing for an obscure club in the Indian Championship at the age of 38, and after earning millions, often finding himself with less than £600 in his bank account. Sometimes he can't support his family. It's a very pathetic fall for someone who once was one of the highest paid players in the Premier League. This setback occurred amidst personal problems, as Gen hasn't spoken to his family for months, embroiled in family and legal issues. He even applied for the annulment of his 10-year marriage. It's a sadly ruined career coming to an end in a rather weak championship. Perhaps someday he'll become the coach of his national team. Born in Douala, Cameroon, Eric Jamba began his football journey in France at FC Nantes before embarking on what seemed to be the great adventure of his life when Manchester United signed him for £3.5 million. Many wondered if he would be the new promise of Sir Alex Ferguson. However, Juma Jamba's dreams quickly turned into a series of disappointments. At United, he failed to shine and ended up at Aston Villa. His time there was also unsuccessful, with high hopes of success on English fields fading away, and Jamba eventually followed the path to the Middle East. Qatar and then Israel offered some relief and a kind of rebirth, but far from convincing. The call of Europe was heard again, and Jamba responded. This time in Serbia, at Partizan Belgrade, where he tried to rise from the ashes. However, the cold of the Balkans did not warm his talent, and his stay was short-lived, marked by very inadequate performances. If he did not have much luck in the sporting field, financially it was not better either. In fact, the Cameroonian, harmed by bad advisors, was ruined in a risky real estate investment in England, owing over £600,000 to the tax authorities. Keith Gillespie is the perfect case of a football player who was ruined because of his addictions. Despite not even being 20 years old yet, he signed his first professional contract with Manchester United and received a considerable salary for a young man. His career promised a lot, but it didn't take into account an insidious trap: gambling addiction. Gillespie, admitting his addictive personality, found himself trapped in a cycle of bad habits that completely absorbed him. He compulsively placed bets, and his transfer to Newcastle, accompanied by a significant salary increase, only worsened the situation. Isolated in a new environment, the 20-year-old found in gambling an outlet for his boredom, spending astronomical sums with bookmakers. On one day, precisely a Friday, Gillespie lost £47,000 in a single session, illustrating the grip that gambling had on him. He ironically dubbed that day Black Friday. Despite this, Newcastle, his club at the time, seemed to treat this addiction with relative lightness, offering no help or intervention. In fact, on one hand, Gillespie, immersed in denial, did not admit his dependence. In the end, the club chose to let him handle his situation alone. This downward spiral eventually led to his declared bankruptcy in 2010, after losing nearly £8 million sterling. Today, after retiring and undergoing therapy for his gambling problems, Gillespie has found some peace. Writing his autobiography, a process he describes as therapeutic, allowed him to confront his past and share his story with sincerity. For some football players, ruin comes from a fatal vice; for others, it results from mismanagement or misguided investments. This is the case of Celestine Babayaro. The trajectory of this former Nigerian international and ex-Chelsea player is far from cheerful. Since his appearance on the football scene at Anderlecht as a left-back, Babayaro stood out, quickly making a name for himself among the promising talents. At just 16 years old, he set records both in the Belgian League and in the Champions League. However, despite his talent, Babayaro faced setbacks and, in 2011, his financial situation changed dramatically, leaving him unable to cover the costs of a real estate investment, leading him to bankruptcy. After only 10 years at the highest level, he left Europe and signed with the Los Angeles Galaxy, where he didn't play any matches. His career as a football player didn't last long, but he reinvented himself as an agent. He is no longer as helpless as he was at the time of his bankruptcy, but he is not swimming in money either. We hope that his life serves as an example for hopeful young individuals. David James is one of the great names in English football. At the peak of his career, this talented goalkeeper was an iconic figure, playing for renowned clubs like Liverpool and Manchester City. His trajectory to the top was swift, with weekly earnings reaching £5,000 at Portsmouth. A brilliant career that spanned 26 years, during which he amassed nearly £20 million. However, away from the pitch, his life was much less glamorous. Money management wasn't his forte. There are plenty of anecdotes about his extravagant spending, changing cars on a whim and fashion, throwing away luxury shoes instead of cleaning them. Such negligence inevitably led to his bankruptcy in 2014, an unthinkable blow for someone who used to swim in money. The causes were numerous, but the main one was his costly divorce, which cost him £3 million. His fall was such that he had to auction off his most cherished football memorabilia. However, even in adversity, David James' heart remained sensitive to the misfortunes of others. Before his bankruptcy, he had generously invested in a foundation in Malawi and had helped the team of his former club, Portsmouth, in financial difficulties. His former teammate, Stan Collymore, summed up the man well. He possessed an uncommon intelligence and generosity in the football world, and his financial problems never compromised his qualities. Chris Sutton is a former Chelsea and England striker who had a complete career that every football player would wish for. But the same cannot be said about his retirement. Victim of a financial fraud organized by his own advisor, Simon Grint, Sutton saw how a large part of his savings, as well as those of his wife, disappeared. The former Chelsea player fell into deep despair. The reality of his loss contrasted cruelly with the profits he expected to obtain. And so, our video about football players who found themselves ruined at some point in their lives comes to an end.
You are our major sponsor. This video required many hours of work, love, and dedication to be completed. Therefore, your participation is what keeps us inspired to grow even more and reach a larger audience with this valuable content. Subscribe to our channel, like, and share this video with others, as this is how YouTube will understand that you enjoyed this content and will present it to more people. Now, if you want to watch content as good as this, click on the video that's appearing on your screen. Thank you for watching, and until next time.